Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, and really appreciate your patience this morning, and apologize for being a bit late. That weather coming in just hit it wrong. I do see some familiar faces, so it's really great to see all of you. Becky Appleford, I helped with the plan update 5 years ago, so it's good to be back and work with Troy and all of you. I got Kayla here with me. We're both from JEO, Hazard Mitigation and Emergency Planners, and I'm the project manager, and Kayla will be lead planner. And really, we're here. Troy has hired us to facilitate and lead this process and make it as easy and straightforward for all of you and all of the communities as possible, to ensure that we're meeting FEMA's regulations for the plan update. And by having that plan in place, your communities in the county and the college are eligible for FEMA grant funding. And that's really the carrot at the end of the stick. By going through the process and so forth, it makes your communities and school districts more resilient to disasters, and so that's always a good thing. And then the benefit on top of that is being eligible for that funding. Before we really kind of dive in, obviously I have an agenda, some informational handouts, and then the PowerPoint here that I thought we'd just do a bit less formal this morning. Are there any topics that you're hoping to cover this morning, or any questions for me, I guess, before we really dig in?
I think some of them that came across my office are the projects that they can put on the hazard mitigation plan, because things have changed. Obviously, the world's changed. I can't remember your name.
Oh, Kayla.
Kayla.
Yep.
About cybersecurity and how it's affected. It falls under terrorism. Yep. But how many of your groups have terrorism way down the list? We need to bring that probably up a little higher. Really as a county, and then your cities, you can decide what you want to do for your jurisdictions. We always have weather. Obviously, we had weather today. I'm hearing reports between 1.5 inches to 2 inches and a quarter, with a lot of high winds, 50 and 60 mile an hour last night. So,
good morning.
Good morning.
There's still the weather that's the high, but on your hazard risk assessment reports. But I would jurisdictionally go through those, and I don't know, Becky, if you're going to hit on that later on in some of the other meetings and individual meetings. Yeah. But I think we really need to review those.
Yes, you're spot on, Troy. So you hit some really key points there. One, cybersecurity, and we will go through that list of the hazards that we want to include in the plan. We came prepared with what was identified on the last plan, and then have a discussion about what we want to. We can revise that list. But cybersecurity, as you said, definitely falls under that terrorism. And one of the key objectives of that first public meeting is going to be that assessment and update to your hazards list, and what are your top ones that keep you up at night, that cause the greatest concern, the potential for greatest impacts and damages. And even if cybersecurity hasn't happened, obviously, as you say, it's a changing world, and it's unfortunately happening more and more frequently. And so, do we have the right things in place? To your question as to what is fundable, or what projects should be in the plan, my philosophy is that this is your plan, your community plan. It's a living document, and as such, you should identify the projects that are, work for your community, are the best value and feasible, and that will reduce your risk to hazards and increase your resiliency. That being said, I would rather be thinking holistically rather than pigeonholing ourselves into, well, this project isn't fundable through FEMA, so I'm going to leave it off. I'd rather you include it, because FEMA is always changing. It seems like they are changing what they will fund with these FEMA grant funds. And now with COVID and funding coming through from that disaster. You just never know. So I'd rather you think holistically of, okay, what are my concerns, what are my vulnerabilities, and what can my community or special district do to prevent or reduce that risk? So.
And if there's a project that you can't afford right now,
Yeah.
but if there's hazard mitigation monies that you can put towards a project during a disaster, that opens up. New Virginia had, was it a culvert that was replaced outside the box of what people, you normally think about. So
Yeah.
I know City of Indianola worked on a project also dealing with culverts over by the park, not Banner, there's two blank, Pickard over there. So it was a mitigation of flooding out a bridge or a approach or whatever.
Oh, sure.
So there was a lot of paperwork to explain what they wanted to do, but I think they finally got the funds to help support that.
Good. I mean, as we all know, there's always a lot of paperwork and justification when we're going after grant funding. But in the end, in a lot of ways, it benefits the communities if it's reducing risk. So, yeah. And we'll also cover in these meetings, what projects do fall under FEMA grant funding versus what typically doesn't. But again, it doesn't mean you shouldn't include it, and it doesn't hold you to, yes, you must implement that project. You must, find a way to get it done. It's kind of an insurance plan. Like Troy said, if funding comes through or you have a disaster and you realize you need to get that project done, then great. You have your plan to fall back on. But if you don't, then that's okay. It's there for you when you need it. Other questions? Did I cover everything that you?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
The goals and objectives for today's meeting is really to lay the foundation for how we want this planning process to go, what we want it to look like, what you all as community representatives hope to get out of the planning process, and what hazards we want to cover and include in the plan, what are the participation requirements, who are we, have Kayla and I thought of all of the jurisdictions and the special districts that should be contacted to be a part of this plan. So with you being the local, having the local knowledge, that's really paramount to help us to ensure that we're reaching the right folks and making a plan that works for all of you. So that's my goal. And then I think with that, we'll go ahead and move on. I would like to do introductions briefly, just to refresh my memory of who's who. So again, I'm Becky, project manager at JEO. Feel free to call or email me at any time if you have any questions throughout this planning process.
Mike Metcalf, Indianola Municipal Utilities Electric Department.
Thank you for coming.
Brent Boffman, City Clerk in New Virginia.
Hi, Brent.
Carrie Elwanger, Assistant Zoning Administrator for the county.
Wonderful.
Troy Bass, Warren County Emergency Management Coordinator.
Crystal McIntyre, Warren County Board of Supervisors.
Chris Ferricks, Director of Security at Simpson College.
Kayla Vondracek, and I'm with Becky at JEO.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so we'll talk very briefly on page 2 of your PowerPoint handout, that HMP overview or hazard mitigation plan overview, just to refresh our memory. And actually, who all was involved with the plan 5 years ago? Okay, wonderful, that's great. So, as you recall, this is a multi-jurisdictional plan. So what that means is all the communities and school districts are eligible to participate in this county-wide plan.
I don't have.
Oh, sorry.
I don't have it.
The PowerPoint, did I not hand that out to you? Sorry about that. It's a stapled copy.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah, take care of it.
Saying something. Thanks, Chris.
Who would like one?
I have one.
Okay, cool. You need one?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
You got it?
I'm good.
Awesome, thank you, sorry about that.
3 extras.
Okay, and I think we got some more somewhere if someone else comes in. Second page, bottom of the page, HMP overview. So all the communities are eligible to participate and in fact highly encouraged to participate. The County Board of Emergency Managers, the commissioners, excuse me, have opted to fund this project on their own, which I really love seeing that. They think that this is a project worth funding. So there's no cost to any of the communities or the special districts like schools that participate. There's no cost to them other than their time. You all, I consider you to be the planning team, again, kind of the overarching guiding decision makers and local knowledge representatives. And as a reminder, we updated this plan in 2017 and it was approved in September of 2017. So that means this is a 5-year plan. So the plan expires in September of 2022. So we have a full year. That's plenty of time to get this plan completely updated and with all the most recent information and sent to the state and FEMA for their review and approval. And then you're good again for another 5 years. And we've already touched on this, the FEMA grant funding opportunities. So by being a part of this plan and adopting the plan, and I'll talk about that here in a moment, makes you eligible for that grant funding. And there are 3 grant programs that are available to you generally at a 75%, 25% cost share. So the federal grant will pay for 75% of the project costs. On the next page, what the plan will look like. And in fact, I'm gonna go grab it. So this is a printed bound copy of the plan from 5 years ago. This is what's considered your current plan. And the first approximately 150 pages, sections 1 through 7, are what we call the upfront or the county overview. So it summarizes all the information for the entire county. It profiles all the hazards, that risk profile, what the planning area looks like, so the topography, the demographics, the number of structures there are in houses and businesses, your discussion of capabilities. So do we have financial capabilities, the staff to implement our projects, or do we need to reach out to partners to get our projects done? That kind of discussion. And then following all of the hazards, which there could be anywhere between 14 and 20 of them, is the mitigation actions and strategies. In that first 7 chapters, it has a matrix, so it shows across the entire county what actions or projects all the communities chose to include in their plan. And then it wraps with plan implementation and maintenance. And as I said, this is a living document. And as we've learned over the last few years that FEMA is really encouraging folks to ensure that it is a living document. Are we reviewing it and updating it in between that 5-year update? And it doesn't have to be like what we're talking about, this kind of update where it's a complete comprehensive one, but just those minute changes of, has our community changed? Have we added a new subdivision that we haven't accounted for risk for? Have we implemented any of our projects? And so we can mark them off from our plan and add new ones if we feel like that's needed. Or we've gone through a disaster, unfortunately, and we've realized we have some vulnerabilities we weren't aware of before, so we need to add new actions. So that's something that we'll be talking about at the second meeting of what that kind of plan maintenance looks like to ensure that we're reviewing the document and keeping it current with our community. And then the rest of the plan is what we call participant sections or community profiles, and it can be anywhere between 20 and 30 pages that are essentially the information that's specific to your community. So you just thumb to that page, or if it's a PDF and you find that chapter or section, and it's all the information that what I'm referring to you have to maintain and review. So the county will have their own little mini profile. Simpson College will have their own, Indianola, And so, again, it's the exact same information that's at the front. However, it's just specific to your community. The critical facilities are in there, your capabilities, the hazards. Rather than looking at all 18 of them, it will just be a summary of the ones that are, at the top that really keep you up at night. And then those mitigation actions that reduce your risk to those hazards. So that's what that plan looks like, and the way we structured it hopefully helps to keep it manageable for all of you. And if you have any thoughts or suggestions on, what you would like to see changed or how we approach these meetings, I definitely welcome that feedback, especially since you were involved 5 years ago. If there's anything that you want to see different, let me know. Do you have any thoughts, I guess, at this point, thinking back 5 years ago now? Okay. Well, at any point over the next few months, if you think of anything, don't hesitate to let us know. That project area map, I know it's kind of small to see, but it's a picture, it's a map of the county and all the communities in it, the rivers and the major highways in the county. So that's really the focus area for the plan. On the next page is the planning process schedule, kind of what we have laid out for our goal deadlines for the key milestones, I should say, throughout this planning process. So here we are, very end of August, established the planning team and the kickoff. We are aiming, based on a discussion here, that we'll have to have that first meeting in October sometime, if that works for everyone. And then that'll give Kayla and I enough time to gather your information and put it into the plan. Hi, come on in.
Sorry, I'm running late.
No, you're totally fine. We got some information here for you. And Chris, do you mind grabbing a PowerPoint for him? It's on the other. Yes. Thank you. We are on page 4 of the PowerPoint, of the stapled.
Okay.
Yep. So I was saying, following that meeting and meeting with all of the communities and gathering that information, that'll give us enough time to gather that information, update that first draft of the plan, and then we'll return in early 2022 for the second meeting, and that's usually where we cover your mitigation strategies. So that first meeting, the focus is risk assessment and your vulnerabilities and what hazards are the greatest risk. And then the second meeting is, okay, we understand what our risks and vulnerabilities are, so what mitigation projects do we need to implement to reduce our risk? So we're aiming for like January after the holidays to do that. And then again, that gives us enough time to get that information back from all of you, get it into the plan, and then aiming for that public review period, so we'll have a final draft available on the project website, and we'll notify all of you and everyone that participates in the plan when that's available. We always have a 30-day public review period to give everyone enough time to review the document one last time, let us know if there are any changes or items that they want added. We are also, one other change from 5 years ago, thank you, that we are looking to try to do this time around, because we have found that FEMA prefers it and it just makes for a more seamless approval process, is that if possible, during that public review period, if your board or council are meeting during that time, to ask them to review the document and provide any comments, and then adopt the plan at that point. Because then we can send those adoption resolutions with the plan to FEMA for them to review, and once they say, yep, everything looks good, oh, you've already adopted the plan, you're good to go now. And if for some reason that's, technically from the time FEMA approves the plan, we have a year to adopt the plan, but that way it's still current. It gives your councils a chance to see the document and provide their comments too before we submit it, and it just makes that approval process easier. So again, we'll update you and refresh your memories on that. We have sample resolutions for you to utilize so that you can easily amend it to fit your needs, but we provide that language as a starting point. So as I said, once that public review period is done, we'll implement or incorporate any of those changes that you provided us, and then send the document off to the state and to FEMA for their review and comments. They'll let us know if there are any major changes that need to be made prior to approval, but it's been our experience that typically both agencies are able to provide the approval within 90 days of submittal. So that is our goal. So that May timeframe sets us up really well, so that the plan is back from both agencies by the end of the summer before the plan expires, so that we don't have any lapse in expiration. Any questions about that timeline, concerns with it?
I guess the best thing to stress is once we're ready to push out the plan for acceptance, the councils, it needs to go to the councils and not wait.
Yes.
We had problems last time with the smaller communities that meet once a month, that type of stuff. We need to make sure that we get those accepted. So I know a lot of those folks aren't here
Yeah, and that's
today, but
definitely something we'll be talking about throughout the meetings, of like highly encouraging all of you and all of the communities represented that they don't wait until public review to let them know that this planning process is underway. You know, let them know that you attended this meeting, that this planning process is going on. Go to the project website, look at the information, review the document, and that way they can ask those key questions and get their concerns answered in enough time so they're not feeling rushed, and they feel like they're being heard, and we want their information and their concerns incorporated, and then they're more willing to adopt the plan, has been my experience. So yeah, that adoption resolution is a requirement of FEMA if you're going to have eligibility for FEMA grants. So yeah, it's critical. With that, I do have on your agenda, so it should be the first page of that paper-clipped set, that going down to step 6 here, we've identified a couple of key dates that just happen to work for us. We are not tied to them. We would pick just one of those, and we're not tied to the time either. So if during the day or earlier or later, again, it's flexible. We just pick these as a starting point. So does anyone have conflicts or know of any community conflicts for October 12th or the 19th for that first public meeting?
I know zoning won't be able to attend. We have a zoning commission meeting on the 12th
Okay,
during
that's
the day or evening.
at night, 6:30.
okay.
So during the day would be great, but
Okay.
our meeting starts at 6:30.
Okay, that's really good information. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is I think maybe the first question to clear up. So last time we held evening meetings, it seemed to work pretty well for most, but if a daytime meeting is better now, we can do that. But
Yeah, I think for the smaller towns, most of the people work
during the day.
during the day.
That's kind of what I thought, so.
Well, the 19th is a regular board meeting for us.
So that won't work.
No.
Okay. Let me just pull up my calendar. What about, Kayla, did you have another option? What about Thursday the 14th? I know that the emergency managers conference, Troy, is happening those days.
It's during the day, they're not at night.
See, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm planning on being there, and then I could just drop down.
We have meetings once a month and you're hitting the week we
No.
have them.
Oh,
Board
okay.
of Adjustment, we
Is
have
that
a meeting
night?
that night. I don't
Okay.
know if we'll have applications. I don't know that I would plan around our department because I'm not sure how much weight we have with this.
Okay.
You know?
Sure, sure.
So I don't know if you wanna,
Okay, well, you know,
but
I,
Dawn.
Troy and I usually go around to each of the departments.
Has- yeah.
So we will meet with you and get your needs and then we
Yeah.
can bring it to the meeting.
And the only other thing, I don't know if Dawn needs to be included in these meetings, but she.
I know she has wanted to.
She's on vacation this week,
Yeah.
so that's why she's not here, but she attends, our Assistant County Attorney, Dawn Bowman.
Oh, sure.
She attends our meetings too.
Okay.
She's, yeah,
Oh, I got it.
yeah.
So it shouldn't be that night, okay.
Well, you never know. I know for sure we have a zoning commission meeting on October 12th,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure where we're gonna be. We're expecting to have applications for October 14th for Board of Adjustment, so.
I think it's better not to schedule something
Yeah.
on those
I
days.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the last week of October? And we find usually Tuesday, Thursdays are better, but I also realize that does, sometimes communities have meetings those days. But either of those nights work?
I'm free on those. It's the fourth.
Yes.
Week of the month and I have less meetings on those.
Okay.
So are we talking 26?
Yep, either the 26th or the 28th, so whatever, 26th might be better for most.
Okay.
I think if that works, a Tuesday, is that okay?
Sure, and what time?
Oh, yeah, and that's, yeah, what time? Do we want to do 6, 6:30, 7? And the meeting will last between an hour and a half, I would say.
Okay. And you want it in the boardroom?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have a live one for the board.
Okay. Let me email Chelsea and see.
Okay, that would be great. While we're kind of waiting for that information, the next page of your paper clip, I forgot we included, the schedule is in larger print view. We have a summary of the project essentially, and then on the back is a map. Just kind of indicating the area that we're referring to, and then the next document is stapled. It includes the planning team roles and responsibilities and the 2017 goals and objectives, and that's what we'll be referring to that document here in just a moment.
Sorry, I was just gonna mention, it's, because I'm sure there's a lot more utility people involved that are working during the day. Is there gonna be a separate meeting for utility people to have a discussion on separate while we're working during normal hours and not try to take up all that time during the evening hours?
We, to have a meeting that way, and if we wanna Zoom you guys in, if you can't make it over,
Absolutely.
we can do it that way too, and just come to your office, or we hold a separate meeting with just the utility folks.
Yeah, I mean, by the time I'm just thinking, by the time you get them in there and the meeting comes, CenturyLink's, the streets, and there's just a lot of utility requirements during the day that we can include.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Yeah, and, we're open to meet one-on-one
We can
and
work together
Get
and
that
send out
scheduled.
some dates and then send it to everybody, and you guys tell us
Yeah,
what works best.
nope, sounds good.
I think it's pretty pertinent too that we have a little lead time, because a lot of your Mid-American, they won't even consider anything short term.
yeah, that's,
Not to be mean, but that's the way it is.
Yeah. We had in Warren County as Mid-American, Clark Electric, and, I can't remember.
Alliant Energy.
Alliant Energy. names the three major utilities. Carlisle, I think, has some utilities still.
Yep.
Minted, I think, is Norwalk is
Norwalk's
Mid-American
Yep.
for gas and power.
Excellent. That would be really great.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing to mention here, that if any community, or like I know with the college, we met outside the public meeting, since it's, kind of different needs in a traditional community. If they're unable to attend the public meeting, we can schedule a one-on-one, whether it's over Zoom, by phone call, or in person. What worked out really nice the last time is we had the evening meeting, obviously, but then during the day, leading up to the evening meeting, we tried to schedule some one-on-one meetings, like with the college or with the school district or so forth, or if we want to do the utilities. So that's definitely an option for folks that it doesn't work for.
Indianola sent me notes, and they've got meetings today at schools,
Oh,
and so they apologize. But
oh, appreciate that.
It's a kickoff meeting, but I'll get them the stuff for you.
Yeah, we'll get to some meeting minutes together and we'll send it out to everyone and make sure they all get that, so not a problem. Okay, let's go ahead and, so I guess while we're waiting, are we hoping for a 6 or a 6:30 time?
I had her check for 6 PM.
Okay, perfect.
We can change it.
6 is fine with us, if that's okay with everyone else.
And then meet here.
And we'll meet here, yep.
Work with IT to have the doors unlocked, and that way they can just come in.
And get
We'll
set
put
up.
signage out for the bigger group of folks to be able to figure out where they're supposed to go.
That would be great, yep, okay.
Do you have a Facebook page put together yet, or is that?
So we can definitely do that, but what we have found is if we leverage all of the community, if you have social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, whatever or the county, and we can provide you a blurb and a graphic, social media graphic, to post saying, hey, public meeting scheduled.
Perfect.
Yeah, so
So
we
no
can-
Carlisle and Indianola have stuff that they post a lot.
We can-
What's happening in Indianola, I think, and then there's another page I think that they use.
Okay, both of those dates are available, so which one works for everyone else?
Sounds like we're gonna go with the 26th at 6 PM.
I text Lindsay and she's available that night.
Oh, awesome, okay, perfect.
26?
Yep. Thank you, that makes it easy.
Just keep thinking back when we had another agency do this, and it was pretty, a lot of the social media stuff. And it took a long time to, we like this, no, we don't like this, update this, change this.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth.
mailing and stuff, and
Yeah.
so now we're gonna do a lot more, I'm sure, with the PDFs and the emails, and do it that way.
Correct.
And then we can send out letters or
Yep.
copies or whatever is needed, which is savings also.
Right, precisely. Yeah, the way we approach kind of that notification process is we have a pretty comprehensive, we hope, list of contacts for all of the communities, the school districts, neighboring jurisdictions, that we send letters to and email notifications if we have it. And if you think that there's anyone that would be difficult for us to find or it's not publicly available, let us know, and we'll definitely want to ensure that they're on the list. And then, as we've already talked about, the social media information that we'll put together and package up and then send out to everyone that if you want, you're not required, but it definitely helps to get the word out. To post that information, we have a project flyer that we should have brought copies. I just realized.
We have some larger industry in Norwalk that deals with the food industry. We have one here in Indianola
Okay.
also that probably will need to include
Okay.
on the hazard mitigation side of things for what they do and what goes in and out of their facilities.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll get in contact with you for a contact maybe, or if you know who we should reach out there. So we do have project flyers that I will send out following this meeting in a PDF format, so that if you want to post on your, community doors or in the library or whatever makes sense for you, that would be also helpful. And then press release, we also put that together. Sure, I'm forgetting. And then we have our project website that's listed on your agenda that you're welcome to link to on your city or community websites if that works. We try and keep that current with the update, upcoming meetings, the location, the time. Our contact information is on there. The 2017 plan is on there for you to download in PDF format too, so it's kind of a one-stop shop there with all that information. Other forms of communication that works for you all that you'd like to get the word out?
Put it on the website.
Yeah, we'll post it on the county website.
Awesome.
My individual as emergency manager, we're change that up, so I don't want to use that website right now. But the county website that has emergency management on it, we will
Put it
put all
there.
that in there as well.
Perfect.
I would like to help me get that updated.
Okay. Okay. Let's look at this planning team roles and responsibilities. So we're meeting here for the kickoff. I anticipate between the first meeting and the second meeting, we'll have a conference call just to touch base, give you an update on how that first meeting went. If there are any communities that haven't reached out or we've had difficulty engaging with, we'll let you know, or see if you guys have any ideas of how we might be able to reach out to them. If just a chance for us to come together and check in, really. Give you a status update and then what to expect for that next meeting, and we can get that scheduled too. And so in terms of this group here, those are the only meetings I anticipate unless you want more. Troy, does that sound okay?
That sounds okay.
Okay. And then for the responsibilities, it's just those four key things, essentially just overall supporting the process, helping to get the word out, kind of being that liaison between us and Troy and then your local communities. So providing direction and input to the planning process, review and evaluate project mitigation projects or action items, and reviewing and providing comments to the draft plan. Second, assistant data collection. Really all we mean by that is we have some worksheets or your community profiles that we'll provide to you to review and provide updated information on. We try and keep that very streamlined and straightforward so it's not difficult. And then if there's specific data that we know might be available or is available that you think is helpful to the plan, like GIS data, assessor data, that kind of thing, we may reach out to you to help us get in contact with that person so that we can get that info.
And I'm willing to do that.
Okay, yep, perfect. If you've done any local drainage studies or flood risk analysis, we'll want that information too.
Have you guys done one lately?
The floodplain maps, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
They were updated. Jason Kahn at the DNR is our contact.
Okay.
And he walks us through all that. And yeah, that was 2018.
So
Might
pretty
reach
fresh.
out to him and let him know that we are going through this process.
Okay.
So he's aware.
So do you want me to?
That would be
contact
great.
him? And then Lindsay's the floodplain administrator for the county.
That's right, yep.
So, but yeah, I'll contact,
Just so that we have this folks in line.
Yeah.
in case we need it.
I was also wondering, I don't know, sorry,
No, you're
I've
fine.
kind of not been involved in this process before, so I don't know what I don't know, but I didn't know with cell tower stuff, should those folks, like the people cause we permit cell towers.
Oh,
for the
sure,
county.
sure.
So I didn't know.
Typically, the way we approach that is if it's those I would consider critical infrastructure during an emergency. So if we know where they're located pretty easily, we can map those.
Do you keep track of those too?
Doug does, and I think she works with Lindsay, he works with Lindsay on that as well. And, what's his name, Brandon?
Okay.
Yeah, Brenda could probably do
Yeah.
it. There's probably a layer or something for
There
that.
is a layer.
A layer. Okay.
We also we're in our final stages of completion of the radio project, which is the public safety radios
Yeah.
across the state, or across the county. That we'll need to add to that as well.
Perfect. So, yep, we'll want that information if possible, so that we can see if there's any immediate known risks like floodplain or, chemical or.
Vulnerability
What's that?
too. Vulnerability.
Yeah, exactly. So, yep, that's one of the key bits of infrastructure we like to be aware of. Other questions or thoughts of the data?
What did you call it about, the flood? I know she does the flood cleaning, but I'm thinking about our engineer, some of the areas. that
Oh, like your county engineer, yeah, if he can be involved, understanding, are they involved with like transportation and so forth too?
All of our roads and bridges.
Yeah, that's definitely helpful. If they know what bridges are in need of mitigation or scouring, upsizing culverts.
And Dave's aware of a lot of
Right.
that because he participated last time. He was new to the county pretty much.
Okay,
But he's pretty up on a lot of that stuff.
that would be fantastic.
Becky, for Jason Kahn, for
Mhm.
DNR, should I just email you his information? Like I can contact him and then?
Do you mind contacting him and just CCing me on that email?
Oh,
And you can
okay.
just do an introduction that way? That
Okay,
would be great.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have business cards, but my contact information's on
Yeah.
the page too, so. Great conversation. Other thoughts? Okay. Third, assisting in engagement, we've already talked about that, kind of how we get the word out, leveraging our social media pages, our community websites, posting the project flyer, and so forth. And then attending meetings, so attending that first public meeting if possible, or scheduling a one-on-one meeting, and then the second meeting that we'll have in early 2022. And if there's anything that you need from us or have questions throughout that process, just let us know. So that's kind of what we have laid out for roles and responsibilities. Any questions there? Okay. All right, so on the next couple pages are the 2017 goals and objectives. And on the last page at the end, we've added a few for discussion to see if we think, Kayla and I, part of this meeting, kind of reviewed it and thought, well, we think there could be some room for improvement to potentially add some additional objectives. That is just our suggestion. This is your plan. So why don't you take a moment, refresh your memory on what the goals and objectives are for the 2017 plan, and if there are any additional changes, revisions, or updates, whether ours or otherwise, that you would like to see to those. Otherwise, we can leave them the same too. any of those goals or objectives that you feel need a revision or you wanna talk about first?
Well, zoning is still working towards updating our land use plan and ordinance. I think, I don't know, Crystal, if you think, am I right, that maybe in the next year or so?
Yeah, probably next year, we were gonna put it in our budget.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Okay.
So we're not there yet, but
Yeah,
it's
we'll be
still
ready
a
for
goal.
this plan.
Perfect. Okay, that's great.
But we do not, Warren County itself does not have building codes or inspections.
Okay,
Some of the cities do, incorporated areas do.
okay, but the
But
county
we don't.
itself does.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then, you know, just in the, like I said, I don't know what I don't know, so I'm just throwing stuff out. But
Please.
I haven't looked through that plan for our part yet, but, as far as in the past, you know, when we've had tornadoes come through and those kind of things, or people have had fire to their homes, we do reissue a building permit, but we don't, we waive the fee for them when it's
Okay.
due to a natural disaster, so.
that's great. Okay.
We just work with them, and we usually don't allow people to live in campers or whatever on their property unless they're in the process of building a home.
Okay.
And so sometimes with that insurance, we'll have them, you know, provide them a camper or whatever to live in for so long on the property.
Yep.
So we have agreements, we have them sign, regarding that and work with them, so.
Good.
If that's.
Other thing, as far as parks and rec, is when the parks update, and they do restrooms and whatever, I'd like to see them be shelters also.
That's a great idea.
And then there's always question of private, residential even, is there ways that we can, if we're building a new home or updating our home, can we put a, shelter within the basement or within the property
Yeah.
for severe weather?
Yes, so, the restrooms, is a great idea and that's fundable through mitigation funding. Private storm shelters, like in homes or even businesses, there are a couple of approaches you can go with that. Ordinances, if, you know, you want a certain size, or if they don't have a basement, it will require some sort of storm shelter. In Nebraska and York County and Seward County, they got funding through hazard mitigation grant planning funding, HMGP, hazard mitigation grant project funding that to fund privately owned storm shelters. So forget what they called it, but the county emergency manager kind of went after that grant funding and found local homeowners that were interested in putting getting a storm shelter put in, so retrofitting or putting it into their garage or in a closet or on the side of their home. And they would sign up and sign an agreement saying, yes, we'll provide that 25% cost. The rest of it's funded through FEMA or reimbursed through FEMA. And I believe like a dozen homeowners did that. So that's another way to.
Send me that information.
Yeah.
That's really,
It's really great. So if the state, thinks that's a good priority project to do, I don't see why that couldn't be funded. So I'll get that information to you.
And then another project that I'm still stirring around and working on is the countywide early detection of weather equipment, as far as radar and what do you want to call it, weather surveillance, and that'd be video and web based type stuff that anybody can tap into. Because you could be down in Lacona and the weather be this way and the sunshine in Carlisle.
And totally different on the other side. Yeah.
So, as we all know, weather is not just a cubicle and it's just just the countywide, it can be divided up.
Absolutely.
And it's just another way of I'm looking at is like at the sports arena, big football fields, that kind of thing, to put lightning detection that would be supported by emergency management if we could. So I would think that would fall under a mitigation project.
Yes,
Because it could be costly to set it up. Once it's up and running, it's
then
might be a
it's,
Wi-Fi fee or something. So.
right, right. I am unaware of any grant funding that has paid for that type of project. However, it doesn't mean it's not doable.
Right. That's the outside the box.
Yep, exactly.
It's
That's,
already on the, I think, ball. Which one?
yep.
Early.
Reduce
Warning.
extent of, yep, and improve, yep, county-wide warning capabilities,
That
absolutely.
would fall under that.
Yeah.
Also, communities that do not have storm siren, outdoor storm siren.
Yes.
We have smaller communities and unincorporated communities that can't afford to purchase one, but maybe they could have the funds to help purchase one and then figure out how to pay for the connection
Maintenance
and
and,
power and the signal.
Yep. That is definitely fundable, through the mitigation grant funding. Do you have a list of communities that need? Okay, if you can get that to us, that would be fantastic.
I know, and you know, you guys have been working heavily rebuilding and updating a lot of their equipment, actually putting new sirens in or adding siren,
Good.
what have you.
Have you gone after grant funding for that?
I think she did.
Yeah,
He did.
Yeah.
okay, great. Yep.
With today's world, everybody's got a phone and everybody's got, you know, an app for weather.
Yep.
The problem is, as we all know, when it's really busy and a lot of demand on that cell tower, whatever XYZ service you're using, and it overloads, it's not gonna let you use your apps.
Yep.
And so that's my other concern is what, you know, we purchase, the commission purchases indoor weather radio,
Good.
and then we sell them at cost to whoever, and then we try to give out so many a year through a drawing or a promotional program. So if there's something there that we can purchase a lot more weather radios than the 10 or 20 or 50 a year that we try to do.
Absolutely.
Another thing on that as
And
well.
I'm pretty certain I've seen that be funded. You
I
know,
think
they-
so, but I just don't know where that link is. to
Yep,
do
yep.
that.
I will see if I can track that down. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think people do get super reliant on their cell phones and their connection to them, and I've seen it
Right.
happen.
It happened this summer at the county fair.
Yeah.
We were all there and we knew weather was coming in, but it was supposed to miss us. They were trying to get a hold of me on the cell phone, could not do it.
No.
And then all of a sudden the weather's here and it took me to see the clouds go,
Oh, wait.
So then I tried to call, I could not do it. So I went to my truck and got on the radio, which we have radio communication with the weather service. And they said, we've been trying to get hold of you, this is what's going on. And because we have approximately, 1,000 to 2,500 people sitting
In
there
one
at the
spot.
fairgrounds. Plus
Yeah.
a stadium full of people watching whatever was going on that night.
Mhm.
So it was a concern, and visiting with Verizon is one of the main sours, and I'm still getting passed off to the next guy, the next guy, the next guy. But it is an issue around the fairgrounds on a normal day
Sure.
of dropout from Verizon and
Oh, it's a
here and
weak
there.
signal anyway.
But there's no code to make them
Upgraded
that.
or.
So
Okay.
we're dealing with a little bit of push and shove, but hopefully. But we're having a event, it's called Knotfest, it's a rock band, heavy metal that's coming, there's 30,000 people
Oh, wow.
coming the end of the month of September. And Verizon, USL and T-Mobile and Billy Bob's cell service is gonna be overrode with that. And so there's no code right now for when they come to make them bring in, you know, boosters.
Like boosters, yeah.
We call them cows, as communication. But if there would be a way to mitigate for that, I don't know, for large scale events.
That I'll have to do a little background research on and get back to you on, but that is a clear need of.
And it's a vulnerability big time. Everybody's getting rid of the landline and now we're depending on the cell service, and the cell companies really aren't keeping up.
Yeah. Okay. Good, that's all really good stuff. So overall, I think the goals and objectives really hit the spectrum of what we are aiming for in a hazard mitigation plan. Obviously protecting lives, protecting existing property infrastructure, and then future property and infrastructure. On goal 6, objective 6.1, we suggested a rewrite of that one just to make it more broad and not just specific to building codes, since as we said, the county doesn't have building codes. And so it's, you know, whatever ordinances or regulations that are in place, ensure that they're current. Does that rewrite work, or do you think of something different?
How about roadways and bridges?
Where does that fall?
Yeah.
I would think under objective 2.1, public infrastructure
Yeah.
and critical assets.
That would be something that would be our engineer, county.
Yep. That to me is a 2.1 for
It
sure.
needs for him to really review and look that over as well.
Okay.
And probably all the other jurisdictions in the county to do the same thing.
Okay.
I know Eddie Knoll's growing, Norwalk, Carlisle are all.
Oh yeah, they're.
A lot more concrete, a lot more storm sewer, a lot more humane.
And right now, we don't have as a county, we don't have anything that, we don't have any jurisdiction over stormwater.
Right.
Okay. Things. So I know David the engineer tries to implement that as a suggestion where he can, but it's not really anything we can back up from a county perspective.
Have you had instances where property owners are like, you know, this water is flooding my.
Oh,
Yeah.
How?
We have a subdivision called Greenfield Plaza on the hills of Coventry. It's up near Des Moines border with Polk County, and Des Moines is kind of annexed around, and it's 600 to 800 homes within that area. Not high-end homes, very old neighborhood, 50 to 60 years.
Okay.
Their storm sewer system estimated cost for redoing, it is collapsing the way that the developer had installed like cardboard with tar wrapped
Oh, really?
piping, things like that. So it is failing, and it's failing in large areas. So we have as a county gone in, and when there was a sinkhole or a flooding and it wasn't in a privately owned area, of course we would go in and repair it. But that area only draws in about $140,000 a year, and that's barely enough for snow removal.
Oh my goodness.
So we as a county are, helping with the tax base in there to provide those kind of services. So is there anything within here to and I don't know if this is ARP funding too, but they have an association of homeowners, and they would really like to become their own government entity.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering if there's funding for them to do that, so that they could have access. And they do have their water district.
Oh.
Warren Water District, yeah.
Warren Water
I
District.
don't know if it's Warren.
Yeah,
Is it up there?
Comes out of Des Moines.
yeah, they buy from Des Moines and then do.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, they do have that set up,
Okay.
so it's not anything new to them.
Mhm.
But they would like to become their own entity and collect their own taxes. So I would welcome that, just because of the number of complaints that we get and the funding that is just not there for them.
Exactly. If they can, become their own local government, that does, as you say, it opens up the doors to
Yeah.
a lot more opportunities.
Because they can apply for their own grants and their own, yeah.
Precisely,
Yeah.
precisely.
And we don't deal with sidewalks and curbs and,
Right. That's just not your thing, and understandably so. So, yeah, highly encouraging them to do that, and we can get that into the county plan portion of the plan and identify as that high risk need, and kind of at least setting the foundation for hopefully those next steps of what
Okay.
they can do. I'm not aware of any assistance or funding, but FEMA with this BRIC program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, one of the key elements of and goals of that grant program is increasing community capabilities. And it's a very broad term, and so what does that mean?
yeah.
Does that mean funding for something like that? Maybe. So I welcome those thinking outside the box, and hopefully we can get someone from the state like Jim, from the mitigation team there, and they can maybe answer some of these questions too. So I'll see
We
if I can
have
help
done
out.
like a preliminary estimate on their stormwater, and it equals the size of our own budget for the county
Oh my goodness.
to repair and to replace. And
Okay.
so it's not gonna be something we're gonna
Understandably take on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
And Chris, has Simpson moved all their steam power, the boiler system?
I'd have to verify and check and see, but they're doing a huge project right now, and it's very close to being finalized in the next couple weeks. And I believe that's what it's going to do. It's going to change the way the system. Yeah. So right now they're putting in all I believe it's the brand new chillers or whatever they call it, how they're being supplied and everything. Yep. It's projects
I thought
right
there
now.
was or was going to, but I didn't know.
Well, yeah, it's been going on for a few months now, and it's involving the chillers that are located between the library and our food service area, and are putting in all new pipes and the way it's going to feed the system and everything. So yeah,
You have a lot of structures that are older that might fall underneath that other program.
The building resilient.
Yeah.
Yep. Infrastructure. Yeah.
because the stuff that they were pulling out was the
Yeah.
old tile or the old. You just touched some of the old piping and it just shattered.
Some of those
Stuff,
buildings
so.
are World War One, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple that are getting pretty old. And then we used to have little steam leaks, every time the ground would heave or something, we would have big steam coming up. You thought you were out in like one of the national parks.
Oh
or
my
something.
goodness.
We've gotten rid of most of that now because that's part of the system that they
That
were
whole
changing.
upgrade.
The whole
Okay.
upgrade and everything, yeah. And then we get some sinkholes as a result. A lot of that stuff, yeah, we haven't had as much,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good. Okay. Any of those suggested additions, do you like them, or you're like, that's fine the way it is, we'll just leave it and move on? We have develop hazard-specific plans, conduct studies or assessments to mitigate for hazards and minimize their impact. And then also objective 3.5, develop or improve emergency response plans, procedures and abilities, increase the capability to respond.
I think that always needs to be revisited all the time.
Yeah, okay, so go ahead and add that one.
Yeah.
And I really like that first one, 2.4.
Okay,
Yeah,
add that one.
Yeah.
they kind of work together.
Yeah,
But you just have no idea of what it is until you have someone come in and help you through that.
Exactly. Sometimes these, micro studies that can really help you refine what the need, what the risk is. It's good.
And did we do a dam study? Warren County, Marion County has one, obviously, because of the Red Rock and Saylorville. But that will affect us,
Okay.
one way or the other. And if they both have issues, the Indianola, the county area around here could be in a bowl.
Could be impacted if those were to fail.
Moving up and down the farm market or the major highway.
That's an
including
excellent.
the interstate.
Yeah, so, with those having probably emergency action plans, that's a really good question to see if this area is included and have you done an
They've done
exercise?
some stuff, but that was where Jeff and I were trying to get our two counties to work together, and it just, the timing isn't working out.
Just didn't work, yeah.
So,
So, but that's an excellent, I'm glad you brought that up. We can take a look at that.
and see,
Yeah.
I haven't been told of any updates, things, so. Do you have anything new that's on your end?
Well, we're doing that whole risk and resiliency thing, that's been a requirement, that's good, we're gonna enact and hopefully get some funding there, but otherwise it's just, similar to the college, we have, future budgeted items to try to upgrade. Those things are out of sight, out of mind is what come back to bite you, cause you don't think about them,
Right.
so we're, and it's nationwide.
Yeah.
It's just something that's just affecting millions and millions of people.
Are you referring to the water system?
Yes,
emergency
water
response
systems,
plan?
yeah, well, what do you do, like,
EPA?
whether it's water, they've got millions of people that don't have any water down in New Orleans now.
Yep.
And then how to get them water and how to get the electric back on to get the pumps to get them water, and it's,
Yeah.
16 years from Katrina when they learned a lot, but still,
still.
Moving forward, yeah.
didn't do it quite right, but, yeah, so that's where I'm at, so.
I'm glad you mentioned the ERP. Are you far enough along in that emergency response planning and risk and resilience assessment do you have a document or?
The bigger cities were required to get it done here
Yeah.
last year, and then everything was pushed back with COVID.
Yeah.
So we're getting closer.
Getting there.
And then, then it's just a matter of implementing it.
Oh,
and
for
then
sure.
getting the funding to actually
Do it.
do it.
So,
It's always.
once that happens, you can add that to the city overall all hazards plan and operations plan, and then the next time we do this, then that can be added to the
Exactly.
mitigation plan.
Yeah.
Since we're not ready right now, but.
Right.
Yeah, if there are projects that are identified or vulnerabilities that you identify through that process, that those should definitely be included in this plan. So keep that in mind. If by some chance it does get completed prior to this process being done,
Yeah.
I'll reach out.
And we've got till the first of the year, right, on this, right? Are we thinking, is it,
Later.
So,
actually a little, like in June or July, you think it's a year out or 8 months
yeah,
out?
we'll have a complete draft ready in May of 2022.
May,
Yeah.
okay.
That's our goal timeline, yeah.
And if you find stuff before your other grant that you're working on comes out, and you find stuff, that still could be added into the
Definitely.
mitigation.
Okay.
You don't have to wait for that complete, but if you find something there that you wanna do a heads up and think about, and if that money comes available through a disaster, would support your infrastructure, buildings, whatever.
Yeah, but we talked about earlier, it has to be documented and stuff
And-
before you even qualify, right?
That's correct. However, I don't want, what we've learned is that communities don't have to think about everything in this 10-month period and get it into the plan. The idea is that you maintain your plan, and so if you do have a disaster and you're like, oh, we need to go after funding to put in this project because we know it's gonna reduce our risk next time, email us, email the state, email Troy, and you can get that project and that information in here in between the 5-year updates, and then you're eligible still. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the key is to be included in this planning process now so that you can make those changes in between the 5-year updates. If a community doesn't hop in now and adopt the plan, they're out of luck for 5 years. So
Okay.
by being a part of this process, it's not like, oh my gosh, we didn't include that when we met with JEO, now we have to wait. No, you can add it.
That's where I tell folks to think outside the box.
Yeah.
It may or may not comply, but it's in there, and then there might be a situation in a certain year that FEMA's gonna cover certain things, maybe not 75%, maybe 60%,
Right.
or whatever, and you would have thought you would have never got something like that.
Yeah.
So.
So if
don't
you know
lock
there are
yourself into a
needs.
time frame.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I don't know how many years it took Des Moines Waterworks when they had the floods.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they didn't have any water for 15 days and businesses,
Yeah.
nothing can run without water, hardly, so
It wasn't fun.
it was not
It
fun.
was not fun.
Yeah.
That's a long
And-
time.
2 weeks.
Yeah, and then we were kind of like an island because we had our own system and we're in a deep well system, so we pumped millions of gallons out to people to provide. And, which was good because we were this close to tying into Des Moines and becoming like Norwalk and Waukegan. And their numbers were a little bit higher than what the utility board thought was reasonable, so we built a new facility. And boy, we got lucky.
Oh my gosh.
We'd have been right there going, well, can't do much without water, So, but we don't want to, like I said, in a sense, we don't want to get caught behind the 8 ball by not having, thinking out of the box and stuff, so.
Sure.
Which is why I'm tagging along with Mike here, trying to learn.
And
To that.
the city of Indianola is now 3/4 under buried power under. Or are we still at?
I'd say we were a little under that. I mean, we got price 60%. But the problem is some of that older stuff is old and needs
Mhm.
replaced, and it's on the old system that needs upgraded. So yeah, definitely lots of infrastructure needs for sure.
Yeah. There's always something to be replaced or upgraded, right? It seems like.
The old wooden boxes.
What's that?
The old wooden boxes over here.
Oh, yeah.
Building.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Goodness. Okay. Anything else on goals and objectives? Any thoughts on goal 7? The idea there is, so FEMA requires us to do an assessment and a review of the plans that you have currently in place and how they overlap with mitigation, so that we're kind of all rowing in the same direction, like we all have the same goal in mind and trajectory. And this goal and objective is kind of the opposite of that is, okay, we've done this assessment, now are we incorporating those findings into our other local planning documents and recommending that. But again, if that's already being done or not a priority at this time, we don't have to include it. So if anyone wants to include goal 7, yay or nay?
I don't think it's gonna hurt to
Okay.
have that.
We'll add it and we'll make these changes and include it with the meeting minutes and give you another chance to digest it and review it. And if you have any other thoughts or comments, let us know. And we'll also share this with all the other communities too.
Is it safe to say, since this is just a kickoff meeting, that we're all gonna come back with some things?
Yeah, oh,
You know,
definitely.
so,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
Yep. I love that.
I mean, you were putting me on a spot there, and I
I
was
know.
trying to say something, so I couldn't. Dang it.
I welcome feedback after, absolutely. Okay, next, we're at the bottom of page 5, slide 10. The potential hazards list for 2022 to include in the plan. There is also a handout with a table on it. It has 3 columns. And the first column is the 2018 State of Iowa hazards that are addressed in their plan. The middle column is the hazards that were addressed in your current county 2017 plan. And then the final right column is the potential starting point for hazards to include in this plan. Excuse me. What you see at the bottom, since I know that's a lot of information to kind of look at, we summarized some potential recommendations to kind of streamline that a little bit of, and I did forget one additional third bullet. I changed in that third column extreme heat to extreme temperatures. So typically we cover extreme cold and severe winter. I think it makes more sense to include extreme heat and cold in one spot. So that would be one recommendation for this plan update.
Yes.
The other 2 that we are suggesting is combining severe thunderstorms, hail, and lightning into one, rather than having a separate.
In today's terms, severe thunderstorms, that's what it is.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, years ago they divided it all out. How
And
many times did we have lightning strikes and blah, blah, that were significant, where if you put it all under severe.
it's associated with that anyway.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the state has done too, to make that association more clear. And then lastly, same with the state plan, combining tornadoes and windstorms or high wind events into one. The idea being, while they're kind of manifesting differently, the impacts generally tend to be the same, and the way you mitigate or reduce your risk to them are the same.
And where we learned something was last year during the derecho.
Yeah.
It wasn't a tornado, it was straight line.
Straight line winds.
Clocked 120 miles an hour for a significant time, so that would fall with that windstorm.
Yep, exactly, precisely. So the list that is here for the 2022 right column is animal and plant disease, dam failure, drought, earthquakes, expansive soils, extreme temperatures, flooding, grass and wildfire, hazardous materials release, human disease, infrastructure failure, levee failure, severe thunderstorms, severe winter storms, that includes ice storms, your blizzards, everything, sinkholes, terrorism, tornadoes and windstorms, and transportation incidents. Any of those immediately pop out like, oh, why do we have that one? Or that is a really low concern, because you can see in that far left corner, the 2018 state plan, they have other hazards of concern. So what they did with that bulleted list is, yes, these are an issue and occur in our state, but they're being covered under other planning mechanisms or other agencies to ensure that they are mitigated for. I think I would not be surprised with their next plan update if they pulled back out pandemic human disease. So it's obviously not a perfect approach, but at that point in time, it made sense. So what I'm saying is, while the state did that, doesn't mean we have to. And if we feel like, for instance, transportation incidences, really falls under a different group to mitigate for, we could remove it. But I think it's a pretty comprehensive list.
I think that we need to move pandemic over to 22.
Yep, and that's another good point. It falls under human disease, but I kind of like how they phrased it, pandemic human disease. Do you want that clarifying word?
I think let's put pandemic.
Okay.
Disease.
Pandemic disease.
That way it's in general.
Yep.
Because the flu is a human disease, it can be.
Yep.
Certain flus. we've learned a lot over the last year on COVID and how it affects the economy, let alone human, and the spread of
Absolutely.
in our schools and businesses and everything else. So I think that needs to be mentioned over here.
Yep, I completely agree. So we'll make that change to pandemic disease.
What is radiological?
Radiological was, I thought, so they have it listed separately, for the state plan. What I recommend doing is just including it with hazardous materials.
Yes.
Unless you feel like it needs.
The reason the state had it was we had 2 nuclear sites in the state that were power sites that have now been decommissioned. They're still
Have material there, but they're
Right.
not running.
The
Yep.
state plans for were, we may have a product that's a spill or release through the transportation.
Exactly.
So, even a dentist office has radiological, but is it large enough to affect a lot of people all at once? No.
Right.
So that's why the state has radiological is from the past, and they probably still will have it
Until those are,
until that's all cleaned up.
exactly.
Decommissioned fully and
Yep. Do you know if radiological materials are in large quantities transported through your county? Can you say whether or not?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's not unusual.
We
so-
have I-35, Interstate 35, we have Highway 5, and we have Highway 65 and 69. This stuff is transported all the time.
Absolutely.
That's the best way to tell you since we're recording.
Absolutely, that's a fair point. So, that will be covered under that hazardous material release. Thankfully, that's a heavily regulated, item, so there are a lot of rules and laws and regulations that they have to abide by. But just,
What all it takes is accident on the interstate, and then the DOT moves the traffic through Warren County or Madison, and so you have that extra
influx.
flux and
Yeah.
flux also, besides the normal traffic that flow through the county.
That's a good point.
But when they move some stuff on 65 and 9, it may not be radiological, but it could be other chemicals.
Yeah.
One of the things that Warren County has a lot of, and so much as all the rest of the state, is anhydrous.
Oh, yes.
And pneumonia, so we've been fortunate to have minimal
Yeah.
accidents, releases, or what have you. Farmer pickups pull this stuff, let alone tractors.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
been great not to have situations
For sure.
that big.
So yeah, that is definitely all covered under that particular hazard. Any that you feel are missing or you're wondering would be covered under any of these?
Earthquake, I get questions all the time. We're close to the Madrid
Yeah.
fault. We still get,
A little tremor here and there?
yeah.
Mhm.
So anything can go, even though we're in the hub of the center of the United States, it's still.
It's best to leave it on. Yeah, the risk is very low, but
I have had phone calls and stuff with people asking, why is that in there? And that's, you explain it to them and they go, but it's still something that we need to think about.
consider. I completely agree.
Do we have animal? There it is.
Yep, at the top there.
Imagine or not, but Warren County has a lot of rodeo and race horses.
Oh,
in
okay.
Warren County. Besides your normal chickens and beef and goat farms now.
Hmm. Okay. Very good.
They were dealing with the bird flu in northwest Iowa for the most part. And I get a phone call from the news team telling me about the horse flu.
What?
And it's a legitimate thing because I had to call around and there is such a
If thing as a horse, well, that is good to
It can
know.
be transported by the rider, a saddle, the horses being in the same room.
Sure. It can.
And so that would be more of an economic impact. It hasn't traveled between human to animal or back and forth. But the economics of racing industry or rodeo industry is pretty significant.
Absolutely. Okay. Huh. Okay. Well, it sounds like we're pretty satisfied. We'll make that change to pandemic disease. Otherwise, I think it's a good comprehensive list.
I think
Okay.
so.
Good. Let's see here. On page 6 of your PowerPoint, to the next point, or page, excuse me. Just providing you all with what we'll talk about at the first meeting with everyone in attendance, kind of what is required to participate. What do I need to do to ensure that I'm a part of this planning process or part of this plan update? Attend a meeting. Attend both meetings, frankly, just to ensure that you're providing the information. And what we mean by attending a meeting, attend a public meeting, give us a call and schedule a one-on-one meeting, provide us those worksheets, that's what we mean. Be sure to identify at least one mitigation action. That is a requirement. It can be as simple as educational outreach. It can be backup generator or tornado siren. So we're here to help with that, but identifying one action is required. Reviewing all plan drafts. At each meeting, folks will get an early draft or an updated draft of their section. So every time they see that document in front of them, they're reviewing it. So that's great. And then lastly, adopt the plan by resolution. So those are really those key steps. We have seen in other planning areas, if the planning team thinks it's important to ensure everyone's aware of the process and that they're engaging early, is to require a participation resolution at the beginning. That's really, it's up to you all if you want to do that. Sometimes I find it to be more laborious than we need to go down. But if that's something that you want to do as a planning team, we can do that. Or any other requirements, but that's kind of the baseline, I would say.
I don't think we need to make a participation resolution, because if they don't participate, they don't receive the funding if the funding comes available.
Yeah, and that's really what they're, yeah.
We have communities that are very small that I know that they try to send somebody
Yeah.
to those.
One person wearing 10 hats and 40-hour, job, and doing all the extra stuff. So yeah, I am totally fine with that. So we'll stick with those 4 items. The next slide, participating jurisdictions. So we've been kind of talking about this all throughout, and you have the map. That table, I know it's kind of hard to see there, but it would be all the cities are eligible to participate. All of the school districts are eligible to participate. We had a couple last time that did not in terms of schools, and we had 4 communities not participate last time. And I think because of that, resources are finite, people are busy, and the communities are very small. But we'll do our best to get them engaged this time. Obviously, Simpson College participates. And so you've mentioned the water district, Warren Water District, is it called? Are there other water districts that?
I think they're the only one.
You're the only one in your private wells. I don't know if some of the school systems may have their own private well. Still, I know before Warren Water came in, they all did.
Sure.
Whether it be Southeast Warren or, you know, I-35 or whatever one, you know. I don't know.
But I'm not concerned with the private wells per se, since they'll be covered under their district or the community. However, with Warren Water District, I assume that they collect like taxes, that they're a taxing authority to.
I don't know so much
maintain-
about taxing, but they have, it's just like our
Services.
services, yeah. If you're a customer, you have to pay so much for the water you use, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Uh,
So I'll want to be sure to reach out to them and get them included so that
Okay.
if they want to go after their own funding, they can.
Right. I've got their number if you wanted to write down.
Yeah, that would be great.
515-962-1200.
Perfect.
And either Becky or Stan would be the Warren Water contacts there.
That's easy to remember the first one. So
Yeah.
thank you. We'll reach out to them and get them up to speed on everything.
Okay.
Should private schools be included?
They can be, yeah.
We have Victory Christian here in
I've
town.
been keeping them in
Okay.
with a lot of the other stuff. They can participate all they want. I don't know how their administrative, because there's two people that are on their administrative side of things. There's
Okay.
a board, but I will visit with them and see if they want to participate. But
Okay.
good catch.
Yeah, yep. Others, that's great, that we've overlooked. And just so I'm clear, your fire departments in the county, they all fall under the community, like the community provides their funding, if you will? Or do they have separate funding avenue?
Some of them have township.
Township, okay,
And also type, city and township.
And then there's a city, so.
Found this from both city and townships, yeah.
Still,
so especially the township fire, if they are wanting to go after mitigation funding, they might want to participate separately. Are you aware of any needs that?
There's Greenfield
Oh, the
Township.
Greenville thing.
Greenville Township?
Yeah. That's something that we need to send out to them,
Mhm.
them as chief. Also the commission, which is made up of the mayors, will do it,
Okay.
double.
Come up from both directions? Yeah,
The
that's,
chief might think of something the mayor doesn't, that kind of thing, or vice versa,
exactly.
so.
Yep, kind of get that diverse set of people engaged. I think that's always a good thing. Okay, if you think of anyone kind of outside the box, or if you think there's a contact that we need to be sure to get a hold of, even in terms of stakeholders. So what I mean by that are your hospitals, your clinics, nursing homes, blanking on others. But, those that, provide a service, a critical service to your community, and you feel like they could provide added value or perspective of what they want to see or need for mitigation to ensure their continuity of services. So, but we look up all of the publicly available information for that, and then at least reach out once so that they can get to the meetings if they can or want to.
Would that include like the food banks and things like that?
That
Or
is a great question. They serve a vulnerable population, so yeah.
So it'd be Helping Hand, Jesus Hand,
Mhm.
there's another one in Norwalk, I don't remember the name.
We started working pretty close with
Helping
with
Hand.
them this year.
Okay.
So they're helping provide some food and things to our
I'm a
campus for some of our
volunteer.
students. We received one of their refrigerators, they got a grant.
Yeah.
And then they supply every few days, they fill it with food for
Wow.
students that
Need it.
need it.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I'm a volunteer at the Helping Hand here in town, so they do a lot of different
Yeah.
things. Besides food, there's clothing and other assistance.
Yeah.
And they work with the Heal House,
Hill House?
Heal.
Heel House,
Mhm.
sorry.
In town. HEAL, yeah. Lori Abernathy's the contact there. And then
I think it's Sue Wilson at the Helping Hands. That
Yeah,
sounds-
Sue Wilson,
Yeah, she
yeah.
does.
I don't know too, just, thinking outside the box, like Troy said,
Yeah.
but I know it says taxing authorities, but with churches, like,
So I would consider them a stakeholder, because
Okay.
again, they're serving, you know, potentially vulnerable populations or having people congregate in their
Right.
churches. So yeah, they should be involved.
well, I know Indianola has a ministerial association.
Oh, okay.
The other thing that churches will help us with is sheltering at times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Catholic churches.
Yep.
And Methodist churches, and I'm talking churches throughout the county, not just here in Indianola.
Yeah.
I know that, I think it's Methodist in New Virginia that has the generator and the kitchen and all that. And a lot of times when the roads are shut down on the interstate, they'll push people into New Virginia and
They have a place to go.
So they've done that in the past to help support.
That's great. So
The-
yeah.
Yeah, the Methodist church here in town is one of our evacuation
Yep.
locations listed if we need to have a gathering point for potentially, you know, maybe a bomb or some type of a
Incident.
yeah, incident or hazard or something, and we yeah.
First Assembly and Westview Care Center, which is a nursing home, have a MOU between the two that if they need to shut a wing down or whatever, that they can physically move patients by bed up to their church to be able to support until they get them transported elsewhere.
That's great. That's really, knowing that people are thinking ahead and coming up with these continuity plans and emergency plans are.
When they created MOUs between all the nursing facilities around Indianola area, I think they're working on some in Warren County, or in Norwalk. Some of them have buses, and so they will work with each other if they have to transport, and if they have beds available, they will assume whatever, long as they have a caretaker
Right.
for that. It's all temporary and it's during a disaster situation. And that disaster doesn't have to be countywide or citywide, it can be within their
Just
own
very,
entity,
okay.
which is unique because each nursing facility is owned by a different group, and they're private, they're not all the same, and they've been able to work out that within themselves.
It's really good. And you don't want to be scrambling during a disaster to be
What it
making
takes
these
to move a
connections.
patient that has all this equipment that goes with them, whether it's oxygen, IV, whatever.
Yep, exactly. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if the hotels or anything would fall under that or not, but we have in place MOUs with some of the here in town for isolation and quarantining potential. If we were to max out on campus, then we'd come up with a plan to rent out basically rooms and then figure.
Wing or whatever.
Yeah, and then, you know, of course, all that goes with that in regards to feeding them and things like that, but
Also very smart.
yeah, thankfully we have not had to use it yet because we have rooms still on campus. Yeah, we're not at max capacity,
Good.
but
Just in
we
case.
do. Yeah, we have it ready to go just in case. So
Yep, great.
And I found a phone number for the ministerial
Oh,
association.
please.
I don't find an email or anything, but
That's all right.
it's 515
Uh-huh.
961 5410.
5410. Thank
Or-
you.
You can call Ed Grant, which is, he's on that as well, because I'm his property elder. Sorry. Ed Grant, Grant.
Okay.
And his area code is 515-210-6310.
6310. Great.
As Thrive Church.
Thrive Church? Perfect. Okay, awesome. If you think of any others, can you call us an email and we'll get
There's
those.
also the Hope Foundation. Is that the one that supports the schools with? the families and food for kids.
Awesome.
Hope Foundation, I think.
Is it run through Helping Hand as well, though? Or is
No,
that
it's its
separate?
own thing, yeah. Let me see if they have a page. It's a group of retired school teachers that
Oh,
run it.
nice. Come together.
Yeah, they have yeah, Hope Foundation, their website is indianolahope.org. And the phone number, do you want
Oh,
that?
that'd be great.
515-250-7385.
Thank you.
Yeah, they provide like rent assistance
Oh.
and provide backpacks for kids to take home for weekends when
Food to get them through the
they, yeah,
couple days.
yeah.
That's quite large now. It used to
Yeah.
be just about between 40 and 60, and now it's
Mhm.
over 100.
Oh my goodness. With COVID and everything.
Mhm.
Oh gosh, okay. This is really good information, so thank you. Anything else that you thought of? We're just gonna wrap up here. On the next page, just kind of outlining the next steps and what to expect here over the coming months. We've already just talked about that. Invite others to participate. If you have I call them a mitigation buddy, more the merrier. Get them involved, reach out to your local stakeholders, your local, groups that you think should be involved and let them know about this planning process. And let them know when the next meeting is and we'll get them involved. We've written down all of those contacts that you just mentioned, but if you think of others, let us know and we'll get that contact list updated. With the meeting minutes, I will send that PDF of the project flyer, so if you can share that, let me know. Or just do it and you don't have to tell me, I suppose. We'll send that press release as well. I'll probably work with Troy, especially to see who we should send the press release to. We have finalized the date and time and location of that first meeting here on October 26th at 6 p.m. And we'll have the YouTube live. Is that right, Troy? Is that what we're gonna?
I think that's where we're going to try to shoot for assistance from the
IT
department here in the county.
I think that's fantastic, so that those that can't meet physically, they can still attend and have
It'll be public,
Yeah.
so it'll
Yeah.
still be on for however long we want it to be, and then we can give out a link if we save the link.
I love that.
There's some different ways we can try to do that.
Okay. And then if there are any of those plans that you think are relevant, feel free to send them our way, or if they're available online, send us a link. And then there's our project website again, that if you want to see the plan, that's there. Last slide, our contact information. Anything we didn't talk about that we should circle back on?
If COVID hits and we have to bunker down again, we will try to use media technology to do that, social media, whether it be Zoom or
Exactly.
Teams or YouTube or whatever. YouTube's a video, it isn't a conversation back and forth.
Yeah, it's more of a one-way channel, isn't it? That you can't. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. If for some reason we do have to have it in a virtual setting, all virtual, we can easily pivot to Zoom, a Teams meeting, whatever you guys think would be best. We'll provide the link. We have Google Drive to make all of the documents online to download. In fact, we'll probably do that anyway, so that if there's anyone joining via YouTube, they can do that. Yeah, so that is very easy. If a mask requirement comes into place, we can we'll make that a requirement. So
Weather situations,
yeah,
do that, but the problem is that the general public that want to come, how to get the word out that, hey, this is going to be on YouTube tonight or tomorrow or whatever. It's hard to do that.
get that word out quickly, yeah.
But
But,
interactive, we can just, once we compile a list of emails, then we can send out the invite to folks.
that's exactly right, yep.
Do you have these handouts available, the
Yes.
multi-jurisdictional
Yeah,
hazard mitigation plan?
we'll send a PDF of all of this information that we provided you here by the end of the week, so, does that sound good? Okay. Other questions? Good conversation, I really appreciate it, appreciate your time this morning, I know you're all very busy, so, again, don't hesitate to call, we're here to help. So, yeah. Have a good rest of your day, stay dry, hopefully the sun will be out and shining soon.
Should be a little drier going back.
Yes. Grab a donut, sorry, I